to describe it.
Epic.
Intense.
It's such an intense place. It's the most organised movie and professional movies that I've ever been in.
The White Feather is a short film of about 26 minutes in length, shot over 4 days at Easter at Kenmore Psychiatric Hospital in Goulburn. The movie concerns 2 young couples who fight about whether Australia should join the war or not in 1914, and the subsequent betrayal and adventures of all of these characters.
Funny story actually, I was on a flight to Sydney and next to me sat Marie, who's the producer. And it's only a short 15-minute flight, but Marie got talking to me, and by the end of those 15 minutes, I was sold.
It was very much a family affair. We were all very much involved in a major way in the film, and I didn't really have a choice in the matter. I mean, I had to do it. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was a good experience, but it was the week before testing.
He's my doctor. Laurence was cutting into my shoulder one day and we were talking about films and he was telling me about a script he'd written. And I thought it sounded really interesting. Some time later he basically asked me if I'd be interested in shooting it. And I said I would because I liked the idea of the script.
Kenmore was a psychiatric institution which was built in the 1800s. In those days it was quite typical to build a large, good-looking psychiatric institution miles away from a big city because the people in the city didn't want to know about the lunatics. It's a collection of 15 to 20 big old sandstone buildings, and the architecture is such that, with a few bits of set dressing you could be in Europe or England, so it's very nice for making films.
When we arrived on the first day at Kenmore in Goulburn, we were told that we would be staying in a residential facility that was predominantly empty. So when we were shown up into, it was like a nurse's or hospital unit or quarters, and then when I walked in, I remember thinking, oh, there's so many people here. I couldn't work out who all these people were, and we came to know them quite well over the 4-day period.
I had underage people in their vicinity, and that was a nightmare.
It was really creepy. It just wasn't what I was expecting, really. And we arrived and it was dark, and then it was just really creepy.
This reminds me so much of The Shining. Here's Johnny.
The first time we ran the showers, there was rust, so water came out of the showers, and it just, it was very scary.
There was a few strange noises, there was a few strange individuals, but I suppose that also, gave us all something to talk about on set as well. And I knew that we would never have an experience like that again.
We saw an abandoned house with the words "die" in red paint, and cracked building windows and abandoned floors, and just looking into them and imagining who used to live there, it's sort of depressing.
It was my first time directing, so I was a bit at sea in some places, but I had a very good first assistant director, Pat Gallagher, who was very experienced and sort of filled in the gaps that I was leaving.
Working with Laurence as a first-time director was really interesting because while it was clear that he was inexperienced as a director and he wasn't exactly sure all the time of what to expect or what we could get from the shoot, but he'd done a lot of preparation, a lot of planning, and that sort of showed as well. So when we were on set, he knew exactly what he wanted and exactly what he needed to get. So it worked really well. Basically, he did really well, I think.
I'm surprised he'd never actually done it before, actually, now you're saying that, but he worked in so many different roles on the movie as well, in terms of writing the original score and creating all of the sets and the artwork, and just, he was so meticulous, which is probably the word that I would use for all of his work throughout the project, but he knew what he wanted out of it very clearly before he was on set, and I think he allowed that to sort of happen very easily just by sort of talking to people before they got there too about what was expected.
I think working with him is fantastic. He's got such a great attention to detail, in the authenticity of setting up the sets. I mean, he was involved in everything from writing the script to making the props, to telling the actors what to do and how to deliver their lines. So it was just a real joy to watch Laurence work.
You can't just start on day one. You have to have a meeting on day -1 at least, if not -2, with all cast and crew, and say, well, this is what we're going to be doing. You have to hand out schedules so everybody's at the right place at the right time. You hope basically to get 5 good minutes of film in the can per day.
I think there was one morning where we had maybe 30 or 40 people that had to be made up in a very short period of time. Not just basic makeup, it was war wounds and blown off legs and moustaches and sideburns and all the extra pieces that had to be done. And I think at one point we only had maybe an hour and a half to do like 30 or 40 people, which was just crazy, but rewarding once it was finished.
Well, there are a number of very stupid regulations when it comes to using fake weapons. For example, if you have a fake weapon on set, you have to have an armourer, theoretically, and you have to tell the local police, and you have to destroy the weapons afterwards. What we did instead was we used half weapons. So we had a rifle that was cut longitudinally down its length, so you only show one side to the camera, so that was how we got the whole rifle. And then we shot soldiers from the back, and they had the rifles cut the other way, so they only had the end of the rifle. And if they held them up and you shot them from the back, it looked like they were holding a complete rifle. I'm stuck inside.
Everyone was so tired towards the end of it, I don't think you could not have been, actually.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here together in the sight of God.
Oh, the wedding dress. The wedding dress was an ordeal. It went on for months, and there was planning, and there was prodding, and there was meetings and fittings and photo shoots, and it just never ended with the wedding dress. And then even on the day, the beautiful white sash that was supposed to go out the middle was lost, and the flowers were wrong, and just all the drama involved. But in the end, it turned out really beautifully.
They just had a very emotional experience putting on First World War I uniforms that people had actually worn, and it hit them. A couple of the guys said to me, I never realised, and one of them was 16. And he said, wow, to think that somebody my age was actually at the front. And he just sat there and he was shell-shocked. And I actually sent 2 of the young ones home early as a result. We were filming a very emotional scene, and the dream sequence, and somebody sitting there just couldn't resist taking a photograph. And that can ruin a whole shot, and she wouldn't have realised. But it's not allowed on a set. It ended up being an amazing photograph.
The highlight was the same day, the same shot. It was when our 2 leads finally met after he died at the end, and the cinematography I thought was great, because it was this room that was backlit with the sun coming in through the windows, and it was smoky and beautiful. But it was also the same moment that I think even one of the girls watching just burst into tears after it. And I just remember thinking that just really showed that the script had power, and that the film was really going to work.
The team atmosphere, I think, was incredible. Everybody worked well together. I think it was fed down from Laurence, the director, and it just flowed right through.
It was so much fun. I just love the atmosphere of being on a film set, interacting with all these people, really talented people. So definitely be keen to try it again.